I've been silent for a little while, and I just wanted to come on and talk about it. I have been in a little bit of an overwhelm recently. I think partially related to the election, partially to the pandemic, and partially to the upcoming holidays. It's going to look different for everyone this year, so I think, in that sense, we're all in the same boat. So we canceled Thanksgiving this year, and I am super bummed about it. It's my favorite holiday, and I love cooking for my people. And so right now I'm trying to figure out a way that I can still make that connection through food, but just at a distance. So I'm working on that. So I just wanted to talk about what I'm doing to combat the sense of overwhelm and anxiety that has been lingering in my head and in my body. And also just talk about how to recognize if you're in stress or not. And for me, recognizing that I'm in stress has become a lot easier since I learned that I do have anxiety. I have been struggling with anxiety for just about exactly 3 years, since the day my mom died, which was the anniversary of that day was yesterday. In learning how to deal with anxiety, I have learned that I actually have had anxiety for a really long time. What I mean by that is I started implementing strategies to relieve the stress and trauma from losing my mom. When I implemented those strategies, I started to have a sense of calm and focus that I haven't had in a long time, or probably couldn't even remember having. And in all of that, I realized, wow, I've been living my whole life thinking that this was normal. And it was normal to me. I just want to share my strategies for relieving stress in me. Now, everyone is different. The things that work for me wouldn't necessarily work for you, although it's possible that they could. My best advice to anyone is to follow your curiosity. So if you are sparked by something I say, that may be a path to investigate. So here's my disclaimer. I am a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. I am essentially a holistic nutritionist. I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist. If you are making any changes to any healthcare protocol, please consult with your healthcare practitioner before doing so. I am also a natural food chef, so I utilize food first, but really my job as a nutritional therapist is to zoom out and see the whole picture instead of just looking at the symptom that's happening and addressing that. Stress sucks. It sucks. Sometimes you might not even know you're in it, but your body knows that you're in it. And for me, when I first start noticing that I am in stress, a couple of things happen. I have an inability to focus on just about any task. I can't do things like sit down and read a book, knit. I can't stay in one task very long without having to move on to another one. And then After that, there is a physical sense, like this weight that happens in my chest. So what are my strategies? My first strategy is always going to be a food first strategy. When we are in stress, our body naturally raises its blood sugar. That is followed by a drop in blood sugar. And so very often when we're in stress, our bodies will crave things to give us that quick rise in blood sugar. So when I'm in stress, I start craving things like white rice, white potatoes, white foods. And those are our bodies will respond very quickly to that by raising blood sugar, which is not a great thing for our body, because then that is followed by, again, a drop in blood sugar. So when I start craving those things, I know what is happening. I know I'm in a stress response. So my first line of defense is balancing my blood sugar, and I do that by incorporating more protein and fat into the foods I'm eating. And if I am craving white food, and I am going to indulge in something like that, I will pair it with something to help balance the rise in blood sugar. It's probably a good strategy for any day of the week, stress or no stress, is keeping your blood sugar balanced. Supporting gut health. So when we're in stress, stress does damage to the lining of the gut. And in supporting our gut health, we can also support, one, our stress response, but also our immune function. So stress not only affects our digestion, it affects our immune response. So right now we're in the midst of this pandemic, which is a very stressful thing for a lot of people. Supporting your gut health can help support stress and immunity. How do you do that? You give your gut things that it likes, and stay hydrated. When we're dehydrated, our body can very easily move into stress. Sometimes food isn't enough. Sometimes we might need extra support. Very often I need extra support. There are actually several lines of defense that I go to. The first one would be nervines, which are essentially herbs. Things like chamomile, lavender, passion flower, skullcap. You will often find those things in teas and often blended together. These are herbs that act on your nervous system to help calm. Some of the herbs actually help to stimulate. Sometimes when we are in stress, we might have a burnout or underfunction, which is my MO. I underfunction in stress, and so having herbs that stimulate can be very supportive. The next thing that I turn to, and sometimes it's actually the first thing I turn to, is adaptogens. And these are also plant medicines, plant and fungi, that help support the nervous system in a non-specific way. So they kind of go where they're needed in the nervous system, help to create some balance. Some of them are also calming and some are more stimulating. And it's good to, if you want to utilize these kinds of things, I would recommend, one, doing your research or work with a practitioner that knows how to use and dose herbs and supplements for stress relief. So adaptogens are things like ashwagandha, maca, astragalus, tulsi or holy basil, shishandra berry, reishi. What else is there? I believe lion's mane is also an adaptogen. These are very powerful plant medicines. And this is the first thing that I found that worked well for me when I was first in that state of trauma or PTSD. Ashwagandha was actually the first adaptogen that I tried, and I found it to be effective immediately. That was a light bulb moment for me. And I think it's important that when you are taking these kinds of things, that you tap into your body and really listen to what's going on. Because if you're not connected to your body, you're not going to know whether or not it's working. Another thing that I might recommend is CBD or cannabis for some people. It's not for everyone, but CBD and cannabis in its different forms can be powerful medicine. Another thing that I utilize are amino acids. Now this is a targeted amino acid therapy, and this is something that amino acid therapy is not something that I would recommend just starting on your own. Definitely recommend working with a holistic practitioner around amino acid therapy. When we're in a state of stress over a long period of time, our body is diminished of the things that it needs to support our nervous system and our stress response. A lot of these things we can get through food, but when we are diminished, it's helpful to restore the balance of these things by dosing in a way that helps to fill your buckets back up. So that's when I turned to amino acid therapy. Amino acids such as 5-HTP, which converts to serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical in your brain. Very often people are prescribed SSRIs, are antidepressants to help keep that serotonin circulating. But what can happen is serotonin is produced in our guts. So one, if our gut health is diminished, we're very likely to have a production of serotonin in the gut diminished. So that's just one example. There are many amino acids that are important for mental health. And sometimes those can be diminished, but we can help support those through supplements. And then there's the non-food, non-supplemental strategies for stress. And that would be movement, meditation, or breath work. Some people it's prayer, time in nature. And the one thing about time in nature is that, that smell that you get when you walk into the forest, you're smelling the plant oils. That is plant medicine. And then I would also say that creative outlets or play are really important. Something else to think about is that when we're in stress, we can remove the stressor, but very often the stress still lives in our body. Our parasympathetic nervous system is what we want to be in more than our sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. And I think, our genetics were meant to be in fight or flight for survival only. But in our culture, we now live in that sympathetic nervous system more than we're in our parasympathetic nervous system. We need to find more ways to get into parasympathetic, turning on our parasympathetic nervous system. That's how we sleep well, that's how we digest our food well, that's how we absorb our nutrients well, is when we're in that parasympathetic nervous system. Not be any better way to do that than through breath. But sometimes when we're in trauma, it can be very difficult to get out of it. So in that case, it becomes more of a practice and would require using more tools and practice. But it's definitely doable. I know for the most part, I have been able to manage my anxiety better this year than I have the prior 2 years. But I think there are times when I'm easily triggered, and that has happened recently. So I just wanted to share some strategies. I hope it's helpful for you. I didn't mean to fall off the face of the planet. I just was in a state of underfunctioning. Also sort of let my perfectionist bug creep back in because I did record some videos. A couple of them were out of focus. I did get a new camera that I am learning, and hopefully this is in focus. I hope you have something to take away from this video. We'll probably get back into the kitchen on the next one. And if you want to join in on a Thanksgiving cook-along, I'm planning on doing that on Wednesday. Let me pull up the date. Wednesday the 25th, probably at noon. If you want to stay connected with things that I have coming out, subscribe to my newsletter, which will go out prior to any event. And you can stay up to date on all the things I'm doing. Thanks for watching. I will catch you soon. Bye. If you didn't all know, my husband works from home, so we're all hearing that right now. He's really loud. He's a loud talker. His favorite thing to say is last thing when he's on the phone or when he's talking to you. And then he says that like 10 times. But that we come to expect that.